Pues vamos a arrancar. Najat, todo tuyo.
Hola, buen día. Muchas gracias por invitarme a estar en estas jornadas de reflexión sobre el papel del arte y de los creadores en el mundo actual. Me parece que a día de hoy es más pertinente que nunca hacer esta reflexión. Yo me siento muy en línea con la propuesta hecha por estas jornadas, por estas Trobades, por razones que ahora contaré. Pero antes de empezar, me gustaría recordar a dos personas, porque todas las vidas humanas importan y porque, como nos decían antes, la vida de cualquier persona es sagrada. Me gustaría recordar, para empezar, a Younes Bilal, que era un hombre de 37 años que vivía en un pueblo de Murcia, que el otro día se fue a tomar algo en un bar y apareció un señor exmilitar, creo que es de nacionalidad española. Lo digo porque cuando los crímenes los cometen personas de origen extranjero siempre se pone un foco en la nacionalidad del autor o el presunto autor del crimen. Pues Bilal se fue a tomar algo a ese bar y de repente el otro señor empezó a increpar a las camareras del bar porque hablaban con él y con otros moros. Y el insulto y la agresión verbal hacia las camareras fue: ¿qué haces tú hablando con esos moros? Entonces, al cabo de un rato de estar increpando a esas camareras, Bilal se levantó y se encaró con ese señor y le dijo: ¿qué tienes tú contra los moros? Lo cual le valió la vida a Bilal, porque el otro señor decidió asesinarlo en lo que es un crimen evidentemente racista. Entonces, yo quiero recordar a esa persona inocente que ha perdido la vida por el simple hecho de ser quien es. Por otro lado, quiero recordar a una mujer de 19 años que se llama Wafa Sabbah, valenciana, de origen marroquí, que desapareció en 2019 y cuyo cuerpo se ha encontrado hace poco en casa de su presunto asesino. Y que va a ser una mujer que no va a ser considerada víctima de violencia machista, porque la ley establece que las víctimas de violencia machista tienen que tener un vínculo familiar. Pero habiendo sido un crimen por motivos machistas, pues creo que tendríamos que considerarlo también un crimen machista, ¿no? Y esta es otra víctima de una de las cuestiones que más nos interpela a día de hoy a cualquiera de nosotros. Ella también perdió la vida por el simple hecho de haber nacido con el sexo equivocado. Y quisiera recordar también a Wafa desde aquí. Traigo estos dos ejemplos porque me parecen dos ejemplos de la violencia actual, las formas en que toma la violencia en el momento actual, cómo hemos construido a través de discursos y a través de los discursos promovidos desde ciertos sectores del poder una imagen estereotipada, una deshumanización del otro, hasta el punto de que llegamos a concebir la posibilidad de acabar con la vida del otro, incluso de aniquilarlo definitivamente. Creo que a través de la representación que se hace, sobre todo en los medios de mayor impacto, estamos asistiendo a ese proceso en el que se va erosionando día a día los elementos que nos hacen percibir a ese otro o a esa otra, a las mujeres también, como personas iguales que nosotros. Entonces, ahí, ¿qué es lo que podemos hacer quienes estamos en el ámbito de la creación artística? Yo he llegado a la conclusión de que si algo no nos podemos permitir es darle la espalda a la realidad, que nuestra responsabilidad como creadores, como personas que están en el lugar privilegiado de poder generar un discurso alternativo, es no dar la espalda a esa realidad y, por lo tanto, ocuparnos de esa realidad. Y os he puesto esos dos ejemplos porque para mí personalmente son dos de las expresiones de injusticia y de discriminación que he podido presenciar desde hace muchísimo tiempo y que he podido observar en propia persona y que he podido vivir en propia persona. Y como escritora he decidido no darle la espalda a esa realidad, entre otras cosas, porque esa es mi realidad. Pero hasta llegar a este punto y poder sentirme tan alineada con la propuesta de estas jornadas, yo he hecho un proceso personal largo y un proceso de reflexión largo que no partió de este punto. Yo cuando era pequeña y quería ser escritora, decía, yo quiero ser una escritora normal, quiero contar historias y ya está, no quiero hacer nada más. ¿Por qué? Porque crecí en una sociedad, la de los años finales de los 80 y los 90, en que se nos transmitió el mensaje de que ya no era necesario el compromiso político desde la creación artística. Estábamos ya no en la modernidad, sino en la posmodernidad, y parece ser que esa posmodernidad tenía que ser relativista, incluso cínica, indiferente a lo que ocurre en el mundo, y por lo tanto los escritores se nos enseñó en esa época, los escritores tenemos que ir a nuestra bola, ocuparnos de lo que queramos expresar y no hacer ningún tipo de, no crear nada que tuviera algún aroma a compromiso social y mucho menos acercarnos a determinadas ideologías, porque muchas de las ideologías que habían existido a lo largo del siglo XX habían provocado grandes decepciones y, por lo tanto, lo único que nos quedaba era este papel de desconfiar de todo, de no creernos absolutamente nada, y sin darnos cuenta nos estaban proponiendo en realidad un papel de lo más absurdo como creadores y como escritores, porque si lo único que yo tengo que hacer como escritora es entretener o entretenerme, pasármelo bien, desconfiar de todo y adaptar una actitud cínica ante el mundo, entonces la literatura no sirve absolutamente para nada, ni la literatura ni el arte. O sea, si la literatura no sirve para intentar transformar la realidad y para intentar transformar las conciencias, entonces no tiene ningún papel y podemos pasarnos a las series de Netflix que van a ser mucho más entretenidas que estar leyendo una novela, ¿no? Pero el caso es que supongo que habrá escritores y habrá creadores en este mundo que se pueden permitir el lujo de no adquirir ningún tipo de compromiso político. Pero ese no es mi caso. Y de eso también me di cuenta luego, porque cuando quería ser una escritora normal, no comprometida, claro, lo que estaba haciendo en realidad era ir en contra de mi propia realidad, mi propia situación. La realidad en la que me tocó crecer y la que me tocó vivir me empujaban directamente, y de hecho creo que la necesidad de escribir nace de esa realidad, me empujaban a una escritura que reflejara el sufrimiento y las vidas de unas personas que nunca son protagonistas de las novelas, ni de la ficción, ni de ningún tipo de representación cultural. Esa invisibilización de un sector muy importante de los habitantes de este mundo, porque todavía a día de hoy la mayoría de las personas que son representadas y que tienen el poder suficiente para que esas representaciones tengan una difusión tan importante como para acabar influyendo en el imaginario colectivo, todavía de hoy esas personas representadas son unas determinadas personas con un estatus social concreto, con una procedencia concreta y con un sexo concreto, incluso habiendo hecho todo el camino que hemos hecho en temas de feminismo y habiendo hecho todo el camino que hemos hecho en temas de de concienciación sobre la injusticia de las desigualdades sociales. A pesar de eso, los protagonistas mayoritarios de lo que se escribe a día de hoy siguen siendo hombres de clase media para arriba y mayormente occidentales, como si el hombre, el ser humano, fuera ese. Y nos toca a las mujeres, llevamos unos 300 siglos aproximadamente empezando a rascar ese muro, esa frontera entre hombres y mujeres, pero nos toca escribir para precisamente crear otro imaginario o ampliar las fronteras de ese imaginario para que de una vez por todas nos demos cuenta de que mujer es ser humano igual que hombre es ser humano y que lo universal no es el hombre y que lo que escribe una mujer es tan universal como lo que escribe un hombre, ¿no? Y por otro lado también, en tanto que persona que creció en un pequeño pueblecito del norte de Marruecos, alejado de todo, con una lengua que nadie sabe que existe, con unas tradiciones que nadie conoce, yo también elijo, a través de mis novelas, representar esa realidad, porque es precisamente una realidad que no ha sido nunca representada. Pero no por hacerle justicia a esa realidad, sino porque hay tanta vida allí como en cualquier otro sitio. Hay tanta vida en ese pueblecito pequeño donde las mujeres estaban relegadas al ámbito doméstico y se contaban las historias y la literatura oral era un instrumento de resistencia ante las dificultades del mundo que les tocaba vivir, ante todo el sufrimiento al que se tenían que enfrentar. Hay tanta vida ahí como en cualquier ciudad súper cool, ¿no? Y súper... Entonces, yo creo que forma parte de nuestro papel como escritores poner la mirada en los sitios donde nadie la pone, dar visibilidad y, por lo tanto, dar dignidad a las vidas humanas que ya no consideramos humanas porque las hemos estado erosionando durante tanto tiempo y, por lo tanto, transformar y derribar ese muro y deshacer ese proceso de deshumanización. Porque lo que lleva a que cojas una pistola y le pegues un tiro a un moro por el simple hecho de ser moro es precisamente todo el discurso anterior que se ha extendido y que acaba construyendo un imaginario en el que el moro no es un ser humano y por lo tanto merece ser asesinado de ese modo. Y lo mismo ocurre con las mujeres. Lo mismo ocurre con las mujeres. Cuando a un hombre es capaz de acabar con la vida de sus propios hijos para hacerle el mayor daño posible que se le puede hacer a una madre, estamos ante un proceso en el que se ha llegado a deshumanizar a la mujer en cuestión, ¿no? Y no sé si llevo mucho rato, ¿no? No sé qué hora hemos empezado, pero es que siempre me enrollo más de la cuenta. Entonces, bueno, por citar algo de Camus, ¿no? Porque yo estaba pensando cuando venía cuando estaba reflexionando sobre estas jornadas, que a mí siempre me viene una y otra vez la pregunta de esa cuestión filosófica, ¿no? La única cuestión filosófica que es si vale la pena seguir viviendo o no, si hay que suicidarse o no. Entonces, puesta esta reflexión en contacto con toda la lucha feminista y toda la reflexión feminista que no sé si Camus hubiera podido tenerla al alcance, igual en algunos aspectos pues hubiera podido incorporarla a sus reflexiones. Yo poniendo esa cuestión filosófica en contexto con la situación de las mujeres, pienso que a lo mejor a día de hoy la cuestión filosófica principal ya no es si hay que suicidarse o no hay que suicidarse, sino si hay que tener hijos o no hay que tener hijos. Porque eso es plantearse el suicidio de la humanidad y no el suicidio únicamente a título individual. porque además me parece que a día de hoy, si hay una figura que encarna el malestar existencial que provoca la sociedad en la que vivimos, es la figura de la madre sola con una criatura. La madre sola con una criatura tiene que afrontar unas situaciones de un absurdo, de una injusticia, de un sufrimiento, de una angustia que yo creo que podríamos calificarla de angustia existencial, porque yo como madre hubo momentos en los que me planteé, ¿por qué he tenido hijos? ¿Por qué he tenido hijos? ¿Por qué estoy perpetuando este absurdo? ¿Y qué va a ser de mis hijos el día de mañana? Tal como está la sociedad, tal como está el mundo a nivel ambiental, tal como están organizadas las sociedades en el mundo, ¿no? Yo creo que esa es la pregunta filosófica que nos haríamos las madres. Lo siento enmendar a Camus, pero ¿vale la pena tener hijos? Yo creo que esa es la pregunta principal. Y la respuesta que yo tengo es que sí, porque tener hijos es una confianza, puede que un poco inconsciente, ingenua, una confianza, puede que incluso ciega, en una puerta, una pequeña puerta abierta a la esperanza. Y la esperanza creo que es fundamental para seguir creando, por supuesto, porque si creamos es porque creemos que en algún momento alguien nos leerá y lo que estamos transmitiendo llegará a alguien, aunque sea una persona o sean 10.000, ¿no? Pero tener hijos, o sea, crear y tener hijos también son dos formas de apostar por la esperanza y de creer, aunque sea ingenuamente, en las posibilidades del futuro, porque por suerte, yo estoy convencida de que en realidad no estamos determinados y por lo tanto el futuro dependerá en buena parte de lo que nosotros hagamos y de lo que transformemos. Y ahí, pasito a pasito, cada uno tenemos nuestra posibilidad de sembrar la semilla del cambio hacia un mundo más justo. Gracias.
Bueno, pues gracias, Najat. Qué inspiración, ¿no? Arrancar contigo. Yo creo que si algo nos une a las tres chicas que estamos hoy juntos allí es, yo creo, el compromiso, ¿no? Realmente lo que se convierte en nuestro modo de vida, que es el arte que cada una llevamos, lo convertimos también como en una herramienta también y como parte del compromiso vital, ¿no? de la vida. Pero como tú bien decías antes, y me encanta cuando hay esas coincidencias, venimos de mundos diferentes, pero hay coincidencias, porque en realidad lo que yo creo que buscamos en la vida es siempre coincidir con el otro, ¿no? O es a lo que debemos aspirar. Pero una cosa muy bonita que tú has dicho es que desde que, y hablo por mi experiencia personal, desde que la danza está en mí, que yo recuerdo desde chica, bueno, nacer en Sevilla ya te marca bastante, sobre todo si te dedicas al flamenco, yo bailaba porque me gustaba, bailaba porque me sentía feliz, bailaba porque me daba cuenta que lo hacía bien, bailaba porque me daba una satisfacción enorme. Pero a lo largo de la vida, a lo largo que tú creces y a lo largo que vas conociénde más a ti y más a la danza, que es la parte de ti más esencial, te das cuenta que tú llega un momento que no lo haces por ti misma, que realmente lo haces por algo más. Porque yo recuerdo cuando empezaba, el público lo vivía como la persona o las personas que aprobaban lo que yo hacía. Es decir, que eran en sentido hacia mí. Era algo que yo esperaba siempre para tener esa aprobación, para seguir, para continuar. Con el tiempo, con la madurez, con la vida, con la experiencia, te das cuenta que el arte y lo que tú haces no es para ti. Y si no entiendes esto, que lo que tú haces es para generar esa relación con el espectador, para entender que tu obra finaliza cuando tienes la interpretación propia de cada espectador, no entiendes realmente lo que es el arte. Y es ahí donde tú entiendes que la danza es puro diálogo, continuo diálogo, desde dentro, desde el momento creativo, con tus músicos, con la persona que te acompaña, en mi caso, que es mi compañero y dramaturgo Albert Camus, para crear los temas de los que quieres hablar, con tu equipo cuando quieres, como arte escénico que es la danza, construir un mundo diferente o un mundo dentro de un escenario y cuentas con el iluminador, luego con el vestuario, luego con toda la gente, con tus músicos. Es un continuo diálogo, es un continuo compartir. Pero todo eso tiene un sentido solo si el espectador que está ahí delante, el que viene a verte, el que viene a compartir contigo esa ceremonia, recibe todo esto y hace su propia interpretación emotiva y vital. Y esto es tan maravilloso, porque en realidad hay tantas obras como espectadores. Hay tantos diálogos sobre una obra como cada espectador que la ve, la vive y la interpreta. Y esta es la grandeza, ¿no?, del arte y, en mi caso, la grandeza de la danza. Yo, a lo largo de la vida, siempre he tenido como una responsabilidad. Yo creo que el arte es una responsabilidad ética también. Y esta responsabilidad me viene porque siempre he tenido que convencer. Los españoles que sabemos lo que sentimos que es el flamenco, a mí me da mucho dolor y mucha tristeza cuando veo que el flamenco no es reconocido como el gran arte que es. Cuando todavía hay tanto estereotipo sobre lo que es el flamenco, como eso de olé, ya está, salió. Y me da tanta tristeza cuando todavía hay gente que se resiste, y hay mucha resistencia. Lo digo porque esto es algo que se ha convertido como en mi lucha para entender que el flamenco es un gran arte, porque hay tanto detrás, hay tanta convivencia, tantas personas implicadas, tanto trabajo, tanto esfuerzo, tantos valores, que no es el duende que llega y una bailaora baila por arte de magia y divina. No, porque detrás de todo eso hay un gran esfuerzo, hay gran trabajo, hay todo un trabajo racional y emocional para poder llegar a algo que es simple, pero que es impactante. Eso no se consigue por un olé, así. Todo hay un trabajo detrás. Y ese trabajo es maravilloso. Por eso yo reivindico la creación coreográfica como una de las maravillas del ser humano y una de las cosas más importantes que tiene a nivel de convivencia, a nivel de transmitir valores, a nivel de todo lo que hace posible que cuando cualquier espectador se mire en una obra artística, sea la que sea, y en este caso la coreográfica, se reconozca por cosas que son comunes. Por eso, al principio de esta exposición os decía que, al fin y al cabo, artistas y espectadores somos lo mismo en una obra. Es decir, el artista, claro, tiene la responsabilidad de hacer el trabajo, pero el espectador es fundamental. Por eso, reivindicar el diálogo humano es también reivindicar las artes como herramienta de acercamiento, de comprensión, de compromiso. Y esto me lleva a que, a lo largo de la vida, que yo empecé bailando pues así, en un colegio, en las escuelas, luego ya se convierte en mi trabajo, luego ya me dedico a la coreografía. Pero ahora, lo que a mí ahora y por eso parto de mi experiencia y os la quiero contar, lo que a mí en realidad me da sentido a todo es que ya con 57 años, después de tener una compañía más de 33 años, después de bailar desde los 5 años, entiendo que ahora, si todo tiene sentido, es porque yo debo de compartir todo esto y esto tiene que ser útil. Por eso vuelvo a esa frase maravillosa que Anne nos ha expuesto antes, que dice que el arte debe ayudar a vivir, la danza ayuda a vivir. La danza tiene que estar en la educación de los niños, la danza tiene que estar... Porque la danza hace que es posible porque el instrumento real que nos ayuda a desarrollar nuestra emoción es nuestro propio cuerpo. En realidad, todo ser humano es un bailarín, porque todos tenemos cuerpo. Vemos a esos niños cuando oyen un ritmo, oyen algo y se mueven, y ya eso es bailar. Ayer veíamos a Noa cantar y ella bailaba. Realmente, Noa, tú eres una gran bailarina. O sea, verte a ti cantar y acompañar todos esos movimientos, si yo no te escuchara, yo diría, esta mujer es una gran bailarina. Pero es que ayer en la cena hablábamos con Najat y digo, Najat es otra bailarina, porque ella decía, ¿sabes que cuando yo escribo es todo mi cuerpo? O sea, yo cuando escribo, además, si veo que algo no me sale, intento como, no sé, yo digo, esta mujer es otra bailarina. En realidad, todos los que estamos aquí somos bailarines. Y tenemos que ejercer más esto, tenemos que desinhibir esa resistencia hacia el cuerpo que tantas religiones nos han impuesto. Creo que el mundo sería mejor si bailáramos más. Y por eso yo creo que, y una de las acciones que ahora en la que estoy dedicada, que es un proyecto de un centro coreográfico en Fuenlabrada, en una parte de la periferia de Madrid, en un pueblo un pueblo obrero, con una población inmigrante muy importante y con una actividad cultural grande, por eso ha sido posible llevar nuestro proyecto. Nuestro proyecto es este centro coreográfico que tiene una misión. Lo hemos hecho el Arbi, el Hart y yo, él es de Marruecos, es unir también el sur con una parte del sur también, pero que está más al norte. Y poner en común esa idea de que a través de la danza podemos ayudar a que la convivencia sea mejor, la convivencia humana. Por una parte, dignificar la danza, porque a lo mejor lo digo a vosotros y no sé, me veo como un poco fuera a veces, porque digo, entre las artes la danza siempre es la hermana un poco más alejada, más pobre. Siempre he pensado que pueda ser porque en la danza hay más mujeres. Si vais a una clase de ballet, veréis a 20 niñas y a lo mejor un niño perdido allí haciendo su barra. Si vais a un ballet o una compañía cualquiera, es mucho más fácil que haya mujeres bailarinas y los hombres son menos. Y yo siempre he pensado que la danza está más discriminada porque hay una parte femenina, es más femenina. Y quieras que no, eso a veces no te ayuda a reivindicarla como arte, y también porque es el cuerpo, ese cuerpo que siempre tapamos, ese cuerpo que siempre... Me acuerdo que mi madre me contaba que el cardenal Segura en Sevilla, en los años de la dictadura franquista, un día decidió prohibir bailar. ¿Os imagináis en Sevilla prohibir bailar? Y me acuerdo que mi madre... Y lo prohibió porque decía que era obsceno. Cuando en Sevilla, para cualquier cosa, siempre bailamos, pero no porque estemos todo el día bailando, esto no es así, pero siempre hay excusas cercanas para bailar. Claro, al cardenal Segura nadie le hizo caso, porque mi madre decía, mira niña, allí en 2 días, al siguiente todos nos pusimos nuestro traje de flamenca, nuestra flor, y en la feria ¿quién no iba a bailar? Y efectivamente estamos muy castigados por tanta censura. Entonces, desde el centro coreográfico estamos haciendo una labor que creemos ayudará, o por lo menos ayudará, a crear una acción social inclusiva para ayudar a que esa población inmigrante se integre, porque creo que tenemos ahí un gran fallo. No estamos haciendo bien las cosas. Creo que hacemos cosas que aparentemente son inclusivas y aparentemente ayudan, pero los resultados es que no ayudan. A través de la danza estamos haciendo programas con discapacidad, estamos haciendo muchísimas acciones y sobre todo no es tanto contar, sino cómo hacer, bailar. El baile une, el baile rompe fronteras, el baile hace que tú mires al otro y entiendas un mismo código y compartas un mismo espacio. Y yo creo que estas acciones, si para algo sirve la danza, yo no creo que siga bailando mucho más, pero por lo menos sí creo que me voy a dedicar a a ayudar a que la danza esté más presente en nuestras vidas, o por lo menos a intentarlo. Creo que a través de la danza también todos los que se han dedicado en su vida a la danza son fuentes de conocimiento humano. Con esto quiero decir que la danza no es solo una práctica física. Con esto quiero decir que en cada danza que hay un mensaje humano, hay un trabajo y hay unos valores que podemos transmitir. Por eso yo ya creo que para terminar, no sé qué tiempo llevo, no sé qué, pero creo que he dicho todo más o menos lo que quería decir. Y me quedo con esa frase maravillosa que me ha servido de inspiración, gracias, Anne, de que realmente, y gracias Camus, que realmente el arte ayuda a vivir, la danza ayuda a vivir y integrémosla dentro de nosotros, porque al final la danza somos todos. No es una frase hecha, la danza es el arte quizá más humano y próximo al cuerpo, a la emoción y a la mente humana. Así que bueno, gracias.
Shalom, everybody. I can already see it was a big mistake to agree to be the third speaker. I feel so honored to be here with you both. I was so taken by everything you said, all tears, really. I have so much, I don't even know, my mind is going so fast, thinking how to react to everything that you've said. A lot of the things you say are also some things I wanted to say, naturally, because we are one organism. But Najat, now I'm going to run and read everything you've ever written. I'm sure it's fascinating.
Thank you.
And wow, what a persona you are. It's so beautiful to hear you and to see you. Amazing. I was thinking one interesting thing about art and literature and dance, that sometimes people tend to think that we choose to be artists, and that is not true. The art chooses us. It's like a D-book, really. You know, I'm a rationalist, I'm not religious in any way, but I really believe that there is a spirit, like a ghost, that plants itself in an artist or a writer, and that's it, you're doomed for life. It's like the Via Dolorosa. You carry that cross to the end of your days. And the idea is to make sure that it's a substantial journey. Needless to say that both of you have made your journeys incredibly substantial and meaningful for yourselves and for everyone around you. And what a blessing that is. Reading Camus' statements about life, about the absurdity of it all, and about our rebellion against the absurd, I found a deep resonance in that. And Gil and I were having a conversation about the meaning of dialogue. And, you know, the dialogue can also be senseless if you believe that everything is nothing. And, yeah, I have 3 children too, and I've asked myself the same question, where it's all going. But my answer is very close to yours, and through maybe a break from what Camus is saying, or an addition to what he's saying, is that within this seemingly senseless dialogue, which is only a rebellion, there is also a quest. And our quest is to find resonance, to find beauty. Beauty will save the world. Didn't Dostoevsky say that? I love that quote. I think that it will. And what is beauty, really? We say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Here I will say something about the Hebrew language. In Hebrew, the word beauty is yafeh. And yafeh has a root. The root of this word would be the word yif'ah. Yif'ah means emergence. Yes, emergence or a revelation, something that is revealed all of a sudden. So you can see a black earth and a small flower which has dared to grow in this small earth. That is a revelation, and it is so beautiful. Or you can imagine the flamenco dancers daring to dance, even though the priest has said no. They are revealing their passion and their love for what they do. They're courageous, and in that there is immense beauty. I have to say about flamenco that flamenco for me is one of the most amazing forms of art. Really, I know that there is a prejudice against it some places. I don't understand the prejudice. Me coming from the outside, I don't have that whole Spanish thing about north and south, and I don't understand that. I just observe from the outside. And flamenco is both mysterious, amazing. I think it's amazingly intellectual also. It's so difficult for us coming from the outside to understand what you're doing. You know, people say, it's gypsies, yeah, they're just playing around. What? Whoever understands anything about music knows that that thing they're doing, that 12-bar cycle going, the amazing telepathy that there is between the dancer, the guitarists, the palmas, the whole, wow, it's a wow. It's beautiful. It makes life meaningful, this amazing beauty. And I agree with you about dancing being sometimes underrated, even though I find it to be incredible. Not only that, but I don't think you can make music, for example, without dancing. Making music, composing music, creating is all a dance. The physical thing in playing a guitar or in singing, it's about breathing and about movement. It's about the circulation of air through the body. And we seek beauty, the revelation of some little mystery. That's what we're actually looking for. We're trying to reveal something within the human condition, within the bleakness and the blackness and the very easy to fall into depression and pessimism. I think that's the easy way out, if you ask me. You know, many artists, unfortunately, around my colleagues, they fall into depression with cynicism together, and that makes them oblivious. You know, when we come out and we speak for peace, we work for peace, then people say, it's a waste of time. You know, nothing will come of it anyway, I say. And then I remember the quote by Shimon Peres. He said, optimists and pessimists, they all die the same, but they live differently. And I prefer to live as an optimist. I have no reason to live as a pessimist. What comes of it? So if I live as an optimist and I create a reality around me that generates good and positive energy, then maybe somewhere the molecules of the universe will move, like Najat said, we will create a reality, the butterfly wings that we will flap, our beautiful flamenco wings, the words we say, our movements, our voice. They'll start a little movement, and the movement will grow, and it will grow, and it will go, and it will reach the Arctic, it will reach the hearts of people, and it will change something in the way they choose to behave in critical moments of their life. And I think that's all we can really hope for as artists. We move something in the soul, and in critical moments of a woman or a man's life, they may remember, they may recall, they have the memory of this beauty, of the courage, of the excitement and the energy generated through art. They'll say, maybe something else is possible. Maybe I can think in a slightly different way. Maybe I don't really have to be afraid. Look at that girl. She was standing on stage. How was she not afraid to sing in front of people? Maybe she'll... I'm thinking about my father. My father comes to my concerts. He's on the verge of a heart attack all the time. I can see him sitting like this. What will my daughter do? Will she fall? Will she make a mistake? Will she say something wrong? Will her voice, will it fall? He's in a panic. But, you know, at the end, my grandmother, who died just recently at the age of 97, she would say, Ya binti, you were born a bird, fly. And I love this word. You were born a bird, fly. Spread your wings, fly. Don't be afraid. It's okay. This is an incredible idea to grow up with. I feel so fortunate. You know, an old Yemenite woman, very small, suffered a lot in her life. But she had something inside which was so strong. And I'm happy to say that I probably inherited it. And I pass it on to my children, who will make the world a better place. hopefully. So it's this moment that you see, you remember, art gives you a point of reference of what is possible. And I think that that is our great privilege when you see the flamenco dancer, what she does with her body, or he. Wow, you say, that's amazing. Everything is possible. You go home and say, everything is possible. In my small world, I can make a little change. I can move the molecules of reality. And this is my rebellion against the absurdity of life and the abyss of what it's all leading to. No, I rebel. Camus said we should make art dangerously. I think so. Make it dangerously. Because just like Najat said, and I've been thinking about that a lot for years, about the distinction between art and entertainment. They're two different words, and there's a reason for that, yeah? Art can be entertaining sometimes, but it's not the raison d'être of art. Art is there to go like this. No, not to go like this. Yeah? We're there to shake, yeah, you know, to move something inside the person. Sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's not. You know, we're not there to be the baby doll of anyone. And I don't think that's our role. And everyone has a role. Entertainment also has a role. It's important that it exists, you know, to make weddings happy and to just, you know, nice. But that's not what we're here for. And it's good that it's so. So to make art dangerously. And sometimes you pay a price for the decisions you make. Yeah. Many prices. But I have something to say about that. First, there is no important decision you make in your life that doesn't come with a price. Think about it. Anything. We decided to have children, we paid a price. Najat sat next to me and said, "You cut your hair."
I'm so sorry about
no,
that.
don't worry. I'm
So
happy
sorry.
to talk about it. Because I've been asked that. I used to have, in my early 20s, very long hair. I never cut it. It left. It just said, bye-bye. Every child I had, my hair left with the blood, with the pain, when the hair. Is that okay? For me, it's okay. I got 3 beautiful children, and I'm 52 years old, and I'm very proud of the journey that I have made. I'm proud of it, and it's okay not to have hair. The important things, some of it is still here. The important things are here, in the mind and the heart and the wisdom that only age can bring you, and how beautiful that is. Another injustice of society is our approach to women, not only society and religion, I have to say, religion, monotheistic religion, who has put sensuality, no, don't move your body, don't talk about sex, no. Put women in a cage, no, woman is bad. Think about tribal societies, dancing, the shamans, the wise woman, the tribe. Sexuality was part of everything. The body, art, all of those synergies, I think we're in an amazing place and something went wrong. We have to make it right. And that we can by opening, talking, making sure all the information is out there all the time, not being afraid to say, a woman loses her hair. Does that mean I have to put implants in my hair now to make it long? I remember someone once told me, Noah, we won't be able to sell any records if you don't put the plants in your hair to make them long, because the people remember you with long hair. I don't want to tell you what I said
So
to them.
sorry.
No, you gave me an opportunity to talk about an important subject. Please don't apologize. It's good. We don't talk about it. We're so afraid all of a sudden that someone won't love us for who we are. So we change ourselves constantly. We put Botox in our face. Misery not to be able to be who you are and to be courageous about it and say, love me for who I am because I'm worth it. If you want me to change in order for you to love me, you're not gonna get it. Then you can go, the door is there. And that's something we have to get used to saying. And us, I think women, as we grow older, you know, I'm looking at you with your white hair. I'm gonna do that very soon. Just gonna let my hair go white. It's so beautiful. Who said that we have to keep changing all the time? No, age makes us magnificent. The age of wisdom and open. So this all connects to making art dangerously and rebelling against the abyss. Being courageous enough to be who you are and express that. And another sentence about the price. The price of speaking is high, but the price of silence is much higher. And who is going to pay that price? Maybe not us, because when you're silent, like my friends who sit in the cafe and they're cynical and they don't want to do anything. You know, I tried to make a big concert for peace a couple of years ago with the Israelis and Palestinians. I worked so hard on it. It didn't happen. It's a long story, I won't tell you now. But I used to hear a lot from the Palestinians and the Israelis and the people with the money, you know, everyone, the politicians. Yes, but if we do that, they're going to say that. Yes, but they're not going to like it. Yes, but I will be criticized. And I always say, yes, and what do you suggest then? And what is your plan? And what is your dream? Not but, and. So the yes should come with an and, which means where are we going from here? Where do we take it from here? What will you do? Because no one's going to do the work for you. I mean, there are people, they're going to do work. Oh, it's dangerous work. Those ones who will do the work while you're sitting around being lazy or quiet are going to take your life to a place that will be terrible. And you have to be aware of that. So come on, do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be lazy. Rebel against the abyss and make it beautiful. Because beauty is amazing. It is definitely something worth living for. It's not a superficial thing. Beauty is a very, very deep concept. And I think that a life dedicated to its creation is a life well lived. I'm also speaking a lot like you. I never know when to stop. I'm not good at these panels. But I'll pass the microphone to Gil to say some things, and then maybe we will do a little song and end our part.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everybody. What a magnificent... I'm so humbled just listening to these great women around me, and each and every one of you. I don't need this. I know what I'm saying. We have, talking about Camus, we have actually many absurds and paradoxes in our life. One of them, a very essential paradox, is that we, of course, the absurd is that we search for meaning in a meaningless universe. But another absurd is, how do we do it? We do it with words, symbols, and concepts. We are slaves and prisoners of concepts. And these concepts and categories, what are they for? They are there for to illuminate, to make things clear for us. But then in reality, they're also like clouds that obscure the sun, because we have so many ideas in our heads, so many words that are not well defined. They cannot be. They're just tips of icebergs or tips of huge clouds, and they mix with each other, and with all the words and the concepts, in the end, we don't see the sun at all. That's a paradox. Our own tools of thinking are blocking our understanding in a way. Now, I'll give you some interesting examples, and the way I, as a person, try to sort of rebel against this, and how I do it. Let's talk about responsibility, because Najat was talking about responsibility and the other, and accepting the other. But on the other hand, don't fall into the postmodernistic trap where everything is the same, where all ideals have equal, right? When we can embrace our cannibal neighbors because they are a tribe and they want to eat their fellows, but it's a story, and we have to respect it, and we have to let them continue. You know, I mean, we can take everything ad absurdum, right? So, what is responsibility? I try to listen to words and to the roots of them. Instead of thinking with them, I try to meditate about them. What is responsibility? It means that if I'm responsible, it means I respond to things. Okay, so who's not responsible? You have to be dead. A dead body is not responding to anything. So actually, it's like saying being alive. If you're alive, you are responsible to this or that extent. You're responsive. Hebrew, and this is where I'm coming from, has a beautiful term that we don't have the word responsible the way in the West we use it in the English language. Oh, you're not responsible, you're responsible humanity. We say achrayut. Achrayut comes from acher. Acher is the other. Achrayut is the ability to include the other in yourself. That is the literal meaning. Most people, even in Hebrew, don't listen to what they're saying. Most people in general don't listen to what they're saying. So they use achrayut the way we use responsibility. But responsibility is a different thing. And you know, when I first thought about it, this was, you know what a bar mitzvah is? A bar mitzvah is a Jewish sacrament, or what is it? Ceremony of taking
Rite
a
of passage.
13-year-old boy and saying, now you're a man, now you should be responsible. Before the law, before whatever. That's the age of maturity, according to Judaism originally, is 13. And I spoke at the ceremony of Noah's son. Of course, I can be his grandfather, literally, but I had to choose some words to say, and I wanted to tell him that this is the time for him to become responsible. So I said, you have to come to the age of achrayut. And then I thought about it, and I said, well, this means that you start to include the other in your soul, in your considerations. And that's a very different thing, because when the mother says to her child, you should be very responsible, I'm leaving you with a baby for 2 hours because I go shopping, she doesn't mean that, because a robot can be responsible. It can be programmed to listen to the cry of the baby and go around and vacuum it. But like a Roomba robot. But the boy who can be responsible, the boy that can feel the baby, and he's responding because he is altruistic. So the real term is altruism. The same alter, the same other. We talk about responsibility. No. We need altruism. We need to include the other. So that's the first thing I want to tell you. The second thing is that when you think about the other, you have to, I am very careful from some very steep traps. It's like walking on a thin razor on a mountain top. And what are the traps? The traps have to do with what triggers are being altruistic, right? Because we have this capacity, and sometimes we can see a poor guy in the street and we suddenly feel the other and we want to, help or do something. But that's dangerous, because we are motivated then by compassion. We're not talking about pure altruism. We're talking about using compassion as a trigger, and guilt. Both values, very important ones, especially in Christianity, I think, being highlighted. But how many poor, oppressed people oppressed communities. How many of them in history suddenly become oppressors? How many tribes kill each other? First you have the victims on side A, and then they come back and they kill everyone on side B. And that shift of being oppressed and oppressor should teach us something. We should be aware of not rushing to help the poor just because on the surface it seems that the poor is essentially the righteous. The poor deserve sympathy and deserve help, but not necessarily the righteous ones. So that's one trap. And then also we should not do it just because we feel better being guilty of being privileged. We are all privileged in here, at this moment at least, of sitting in this nice room. Everybody has his baggage from where it's coming from. So I'm saying, so in other words, we're going to Camus, we go to the absurd of living, and we go to solutions, and we're saying, so what is the essential question? I think the essential question is we need an alternative to a moral code, a moral theory. I mean, you know, ethics. What would it be based on? And I have a personal, humble suggestion, because most moral theories come from religion. And that is also, for me, a dangerous thing, because it tells to men in the monotheistic religion, you were thrown out of Eden because you pretended to know good from bad, because you ate from the forbidden tree of knowing good from bad. But you can't tell good from bad, therefore you have to follow me, whoever the leader is, whoever the religious leader, the cardinal, the pope, the Jewish rabbi, or the big concilium of them, or whoever. We speak with God, we know what's good and bad, and humanity should follow us. So when you don't know how to tell good from bad, there's a book here, and this is your way, so stop thinking and using your faculties, because you will not come to a conclusion. You'll come to the futile search for meaning. So just follow the books. And I'm saying there's a crack in the door, and I suggest the alternative. The alternative, and that's a big rebellion, and it says it's simpler than that. Every moment in your life is a fork. You have to make a decision. You can do this or not do this. You can turn right or left in the street. Every second is a fork in the road. And there's one way of moving along this tree of forks, decision tree, the one safer way. To the best of your feeling and knowledge, you have to choose the more reversible choice. If you drop the glass here, it's more reversible than drop it on the floor. If it breaks in two, you can use some crazy glue and put it maybe together. If it breaks to 1,000 little shreds, it's very hard to mend. It's more irreversible. If you kill a man, that's the ultimate irreversibility of life. That's about violence. So every little act, you should be aware, is this the reversible path or the less reversible path? So I don't know what is good and bad, but I know that reversible is always better than irreversible. And that is a very tame philosophy. But if you think daily, you can find a question, you can find meaning in that. In this world without meaning, so regardless of the big meaninglessness, we can all look at the absurd and say, yeah, but we can choose the more reversible path. And for me, that is good. That's good enough. And we don't look for bigger good than that. Because that is not good.
Thank you. So we said we would end with a little song here. I've chosen something that will surprise Gil, but it's the right thing that I have right now. Gil and I have spent a lot of time in our career working for peace, working to inspire dialogue and understanding and to build bridges. One of the fascinating women that we have met is a Palestinian-Israeli singer and songwriter by the name of Mira Awad. I met her in 2000, the year 2000. She's a multi-talented Renaissance woman, an actress and a designer. She's a singer and a songwriter, instrumental philosopher. She's really quite an extraordinary woman. We toured together, performed together, we became good friends. And in the year 2009, I was approached by the Eurovision Song Contest to represent Israel. Now, needless to say, because of everything we talked about, I've never seen myself as an entertainer, rather as an artist. Eurovision is not my cup of tea. It's nice. it's very funny. It's very funny. Yeah, that's right. It became a rebellion for gay rights and for LGBT, definitely. But not a musical place that I would normally connect to. But I saw it as an incredible opportunity, a media platform to convey a message. And I decided to take the Camus route and to make my art dangerously. So I wrote a song. I insisted to write my own song and not to have, there are the songwriters that write all the songs. They have a system exactly. No. I wrote a song and I said, this is my song that I want to convey. This is the message I want to convey. I asked Mira to join me. I said, Mira, come on, let's go on this crazy journey. She said, are you nuts? They're going to kill us. I said, aha, that's the reason we have to go. And let's go together and represent Israel in a different way, because, Israel has 20% Arab citizens. Many people don't know that. They don't even understand the difference between the Palestinians that live in the occupied territories, the West Bank and Gaza, and those that are citizens of the recognized borders of Israel. So we want to go represent this part of the complexity. We're going to sing for the first time in Arabic, in Eurovision. Arabic, Hebrew, and English together. Yalla, let's do it. Let's balagan, we say. Let's make a mess. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. And we did. And, okay, so needless to say, the amount of crazies from both sides who threatened our lives and said that we were criminal, the Jews and the Arabs. They said that we were covering the conflict with a fig leaf. And I said, no, we're not. We're not trying to make the conflict beautiful. It's not beautiful, it's ugly. Our solution is peace. We are projecting into the future a possibility of what can be if people embrace dialogue. What can emerge? The beauty, remember we talked about beauty as an emergence in a black ocean. What beauty can emerge if people actually see each other as human and equal, and if women stand in the front courageously and do their thing? All of these messages, that's what we're putting forward. We're suggesting something to strive for. And that's what I would like to sing for you now.
Oh, sister, your eyes tell me all my heart really needs to know. Oh, sister, so dear, you and I are here, raising up a voice that is clear. And when I cry for both of us. My pain has no name, and when I cry to the merciless sky and say, there must be another way, there must be another way. עינייך אחות, כל מה שליבי מבקש אומרות. עברנו לא עד כה, דרך ארוכה, דרך כה קשה, יד ביד והדמעות זולגות זורמות לשווא, כאב ללא שם, אנחנו מחכות רק ליום שיבוא. There must be another way. There must be another way. There must be another way. דרך ארוכה נעבור, דרך כה קשה, יחד אל האור, עינקי בתעול, كل الخوف يزول. לאן وما في عنوان وحيد للأغصان، بنادي للمدى للسما العنيدة. There must be another way. And when I cry for both of us. My pain has no name. And when I cry to the merciless sky and say, there must be another way. There must be another way. There must be another way.
תודה. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias a los cuatro. Creo que habéis representado perfectamente lo que buscábamos a través de esta conversación. Es decir, que cada uno podríais mostrar vuestros universos propios y en esa necesidad de diálogo, ¿no?, con los otros. Y la verdad es que habéis generado esa energía y ese diálogo que tanto buscábamos. Así que muchísimas gracias. Abrimos, si hay preguntas del público, tenemos... ¿Sí? No, espera, Nuria, creo que aquí hay una primero. No, Nuria. No lo puedes coger, por COVID no se puede coger, o sea, tiene que pasar la persona y lo acercan a ti y puedes hacer la pregunta.
No, the question is for you. So, the conversation we've been having, and
May I know who you are?
yeah,
Sorry.
we've been having a conversation about that.
No, excuse me, I was just asking to know who you
Oh, I'm
are.
sorry. My name is Natalie. Natalie from that. I'm from that one.
Oh.
And so I've been listening to this. You're very engaging, and I'm going to tell you that last night was very difficult for me because on one hand there's the beauty of your voice, and I'm a poet. So on the other hand, the presentation of the words were in contradiction myself with the beauty, because we spoke about the importance of words, and you spoke about your work of peace. But I think right now, we have to push the conversation further. This is no longer about a question of speaking between Palestinian and Israelis. This is about Israelis speaking to civil society. Because you use the word conflict, and I think we are beyond using this word. Because there is an Israel who is oppressing the Palestinians. And we have to use those words because those words carry an energy. And for us really to do the work, honestly, then this is how we can move that dialogue. Because once upon a time, I would be too afraid to sit in front of you and tell you what I'm telling you now. Because I was not given the space nor taught that I could have the courage to do it. I would not, in any space. And so, as you open the door to this dialogue, I ask you to tell me, perhaps, or you don't need to.
I hear you so clearly. Can I react? Okay. Thank you for saying that so courageously. Great. Look, let me give you a little bit of my personal background. All right? I was born in Israel, but my parents moved to America when I was a little girl. My father was going to Columbia University studying chemical engineering. My parents were afraid that we would lose touch with our Jewish and Israeli identity, so they sent my brother and I to a very religious Jewish school. We were not religious at home. The school was of rich people, and Ashkenazi people, would say white skin. I was the only poor, dark, and secular girl in this school. It was good, because it drove me to excellence. My only way to survive was to be the best student in the class, and through my music and my voice as the soloist of the choir. Really, it was my survival method. But in this school, I heard the narrative, one narrative, the Jewish one. Truthfully, didn't know what the Palestinian people were until I was 22 years old. After my military service, even, in Israel, because I returned to Israel at the age of 17. I fell in love with an Israeli young man. I came to return to Israel. I went through the army. Oblivious of the other reality. And then I started my career. I became famous very easily at 21. Not easy, hard work, but quite young. It happened very quickly. And then 30 years of Vida Dolorosa. But, and then journalists, like not you, you're not a journalist, but journalists. So, no, what do you think about that? Palestinian Israeli thing? And I'm like, what? And I think, what are they talking about? Really, I didn't know. But then I knew. And from the moment I knew, I could not unknow. And that's why, my friend, I've dedicated a great deal of my life to this activity. The big change for me happened when Yitzhak Rabin was murdered. Gil and I were singing on the stage 10 minutes before in the peace rally. Because once I knew about the conflict, and once Arafat and Rabin started talking, I said, oh my God, hallelujah, someone's trying to change this horrible situation. Let's support them, let's be there. No other artists in Israel were willing to be, you know? The big names, nobody. Everyone was afraid. And by the way, I tell you again, same for Palestinian artists. They won't do, when I come up to them and I say, come guys, let's make a statement, let's say something. A million excuses. No, it's normalization. No, we don't want. I understand. I'm sorry about it. It makes me sad because I think we have to be courageous to break the paradigm. Because, like you said, we have to use sometimes hard, big words. Yes, oppression, occupation. I use these words. That's why I am what you would call a controversial artist. Maybe you don't know so much about me, but I am. And I've also paid a very high price for this commitment to using these words. You know, let me give you I spoke today in the morning, or I don't remember which conference it was, about the organizations that work for peace in Israel. I'm a big believer in talking about these people and highlighting what they do, because they do the hard work and the thankless work of trying to bring people together and break the paradigm that we are all entrenched in. One of the organizations is the Parents Circle Family Forum. I don't know if you're aware of that. These are bereaved families from Palestine and Israel who have lost their children and their mothers and their fathers and brothers and sisters and everyone to the bloody conflict. I call it conflict, I don't have another word. Yeah, it's an oppression, it's an occupation. All these words are legitimate for me. I don't run away from them. Believe me, not me, but many do. It's hard to face. face this. It's hard to think of yourself as imperfect. People want to think that they are perfect, but nobody is. No nation, no people. I don't believe in extremism. I don't believe in absolute truth. I don't believe in self-righteousness. We're human creatures. We make mistakes. We have to be able to be courageous enough to say, I'm sorry. On the way to fulfilling my dream, I caused you pain. And this is an important thing. And this is why I love the Parents Circle Family Forum. Because they are courageous enough to recognize the other's pain through their own, to reach out their hands and to work together so no one will suffer the same fate. And there's another organization called Combatants for Peace, with fighters from both sides, Israeli soldiers and fighters or resistance fighters from the Palestinian side. We grew up, and this is a terrible thing, thinking that every Palestinian who throws a rock is a terrorist. I grew up with that part, and it took me a long time to shatter that thinking in my brain. I said, but no. Okay, a person that goes on a bus and blows themselves up is a terrorist, all right? That's not legitimate. But every kid throwing a rock is fighting for their independence. And we in Israel, it's impossible for most Israelis, and that's why this forum is so important. I go to sing every year. I insist on singing in their, we have a Memorial Day service. It's called the Joint Memorial Day service. It comes on the Israeli Memorial Day. Israelis, many of them, hate it. They can't handle it. They say, this is our day for remembering our soldiers. Why should we also cry with the other? And I say, no. This is the day we must cry together. Every life lost is a precious life. And if you don't recognize the pain of the other, you will never be able to see them as human and live in peace. Dehumanization will continue. You want to tell me that every 12-year-old kid killed in Palestine is a terrorist? Are you crazy? What are you talking about? Listen to yourself. And so that's why I go sing every year. There was a petition to take away my Israeli citizenship because of that. Yes. Hundreds of people signed it. But I continue because I'm very stubborn. My mother says you were born without the bone of the fear. Where is the bone? I'm lucky in that sense of fear. So I hear you, sister. I think it's a tragedy, and we have to talk about it again and again and again. My problem is, and I have to say, I am opposed to the boycott movement. I feel, and the boycott movement has boycotted me many times. And I say to them, guys, are you crazy? That's right, I'm Israeli, I'm not tearing up my passport, I'm part of Israel, but I'm fighting for peace. So give me some slack, help me out. But rather, because I'm Israeli, they will oppose me in every way. And David Grossman, and Batsheva, the Ohad Naharim, and David Grossman, who lost his son, whose son was killed in one of the wars and continues to be a fight of peace in every single way. Ohad Naharim, one of the most amazing choreographers we have in Israel, Batsheva Dance Company, who is a big, protagonist of peace and human rights, boycotted. I don't believe in it. I believe the idea is to work together for peace, to raise a big voice for peace, to use social media, to use Bella Hadid, gorgeous, amazing, I love her. There was a big discussion in Israel. Oh, she hates Israel. I said, no, she doesn't hate Israel. She's fighting for her people. What do you want from her? It's her right to do that. But I say to her, the next step, Yalla, now in your 2 million people on Instagram, highlight the peace workers, because they're boring. Peace workers are boring. They're not beautiful, they're not glamorous, they're not models. They're just boring people who risk their lives again and again. They're abused by their own communities, from Arab and Jewish, are hated, and they struggle to continue. So give them some Instagram tips. Put a story up about them. I really believe that this dynamic of talking about putting things open, and being courageous enough to say, yes, there is an occupation. There are people here who deserve what we have. Talking about it. Everyone deserves to live with dignity and peace. And yes, the mentality of being afraid to talk about it within the Palestinians is appalling. I know you grew up with it. We grew up not knowing about it. You grew up not speaking about it. It's ridiculous. So, yes, we have to change that in every possible way and not be afraid to do that.
Let me say something. I give you a beautiful sentence to remember. Most of the time, Israelis are pointing a finger to the leadership of Palestinians, like to Hamas. Palestinians are pointing the finger to the governments of Israel. But think of it graphically. Point out. This is a duel. This is violence. This is swords. It's like this. It's like the saber. But when people reach a hand for peace, they don't go like this. They go like that, hand to hand. And so when we try to reach to Palestinians and Palestinians to Israelis, it's that. That's peace. That, the pointing, I mean, you don't know if I support my government or not. But this is what we do all the time. We blame the totality of Palestinians through their leaders. They blame ours. We know we should topple our own leaderships if they do wrong, and we just did. And we hope it's deliver what they do wrong. But just remember this is fighting, and this is reaching.
Thank you for your comment.
Hola, buenos días. Yo soy María, soy escritora y bueno, me ha sorprendido, o no sé si he llegado a entender un poco allí cuando decía el tema de la culpa, porque yo sí que creo que somos culpables y de alguna forma responsables, ¿no? Que tenemos que asumir parte de la responsabilidad de los conflictos y de la situación de los desfavorecidos, ¿no? Que creo que aceptar nuestra culpabilidad y responsabilidad es uno de los caminos para encontrar un diálogo, ¿no? Y probablemente el camino sea el perdón, ¿no? En estos conflictos, ¿no? Al final. No sé si me ha entendido. Está siendo un poco abstracta. Es que cuando has hablado de si los pobres no somos culpables de pobreza o no hay pobreza, yo creo que sí que somos culpables de muchas cosas que hay en este mundo y creo que sí que tendríamos que asumir parte de la responsabilidad de la situación donde estamos hoy. Pero quizás por nuestros antepasados, pero que sí que lo somos responsables de alguna forma.
Of course we are responsible. The reason I didn't hear you well is because in the beginning this one went out and half the and I was looking to figure that. Yes. First of all, we are, each one are guilty of many things. Two, we always have to be compassionate. So those two things are important values. I mean, it's about not just being guilty, but as Noah said so beautifully, admitting to your being a human being and accepting your guilt and asking for forgiveness, apologizing, changing the situation. I mean, there's a difference between saying I'm guilty and I will be either rewarded or not in the next life. That's questionable. What do you do tomorrow? Do you come, like Noah said, you come to the Palestinian or to whoever you oppress and say, I acted horribly. I mean, I had my reason, my narrative. I was not looking at the other. I was non-altruistic. I didn't even see you as I was running over you with my truck. But that doesn't absolve me. It doesn't absolve me from the pain that I inflicted, from my responsibility for what I did, and from including you and compensating you and asking your forgiveness, as I expect from each one to do to me, but not a condition. But first expect. I expect. One of the most noble things that happened here in Spain, that after 500 years, Spanish government is giving citizenship to Jews who have names who can prove they're being Jewish 500 years ago when the Jews were expelled in 1492 from Spain, and now you're saying,
I have to say something about that if you let me.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, for me, I know there are always strange political interests, and I'm not going into there. I'm not naive. But I'm saying in a historical perspective, no matter what it is, even hanging on this phrase, it means that they're saying, whoa, there's a big admittance. You know how many Israelis live in Berlin today? You know, there's only one sign of hope in the world. The fact that Israel and Germany can live together, and not only live together, Israel started relations with Germany 10 years, mere 10 years, after the most incredible Holocaust in the world. I mean, with all due respect to each and every person who loses their life, I mean, this was like, whoa. And 10 years later, Ben-Gurion signs a deal with the Germans, and today we have tens of thousands of Israelis going to school and living in Berlin. I mean, our conflict with the Palestinians is minuscule compared to what we have with Germany. And then for years before Germany, people held it against Spain. And the Greeks and the Romans, the whole world is people massacring each other for various reasons. They all have to feel guilty, at the same time hopeful. They all have to ask forgiveness. They all have to be willing to compensate, and everything in a right balance of measure, without going to extremes that are absurd and impossible to manage. Your 3 words, your recognized apology.
Sorry,
Yes.
I have to say
Yes,
something
please.
about what you said about this issue about citizenship, because it was something that affected me directly. And I found it so unfair. I'm sorry to tell my own story, but the fact is there are kind of 2 million people from Morocco living in Spain, and the way to get the citizenship is like hell. It's like hell. I mean, when I was 20 years old, I spent, at that time, it was 12 years old that I was living in Spain. So I started to try to get the citizenship because I couldn't get a grant for the university. I couldn't study at the university because, I studied at the university because I did all my, I did like miracles to study at the university because as a foreigner, I wasn't allowed to have a grant from the government. Mm-hmm. And then I was trying to get the citizenship. It took me like 4 years of, papers and a lot of asking for papers from Morocco, which is a hell as well, and everything. And it took me 4 years. So in those years, I couldn't work in a public job because I wasn't allowed to. I was a single mother alone with my son, trying to, to keep him alive and sane and to give him everything that he needed. I was alone because I rebelled against the misogyny in my family. So I really needed this citizenship. It was a question of life or death. Yes. And then they changed the law, and they decided to recognize the citizenship to the Sepharad people who have left Spain 500 years ago, and people that were living here couldn't be citizens, and we had to, be like out of the system, not recognized, dehumanized. And it was a hell. And then I couldn't understand why it was so easy to get a citizenship from the past, from a very far past. And me, that I was growing up in this society with my family, that I thought it was like, I was like like other children at school. When I was growing up in a small city called Big, I thought that I was like others in the class. And then I discovered I wasn't, because there was a kind of an apartheid for us, because we weren't as humans as others. So I had to struggle with a lot of things, and I felt very betrayed by this law, because for a person that has Sephardi background, you just have to register. And I had to spend 10 years in Spain continuously. I couldn't break this residence. 10 years, have a contract of work, a lot of things I had to. I mean, it was so unfair. It also happened. Yeah, I'm sorry. It also happened with Messi, because it was the time that Messi came here to play football, and they gave him citizenship immediately, and I was waiting for my. I was like,
absolutely.
What?
I absolutely agree with you. First, I want to
because Messi he's a talented. And I was like, me, I'm talented as well. I mean, it's more important to write than...
You're so right. I agree.
Right.
I'm on your side. Woo! Yeah, absolutely right. Makes no sense.
Absolutely. I'm with her on this.
No, I think
I will say one thing. I have no idea why the government of Spain did this thing, but it illustrates one thing on another level, that history and the notion of some people, whether it's the Palestinians, you cannot erase the feelings of people, the feelings of the oppression that you suffered, and the fact that all governments are corrupt, and that there's so much distortion of human values. Sometimes somebody feels that he enjoys that, and sometimes that other. Many Palestinians in Israel suffer from something very basic, very similar. If a Palestinian Israeli wants to marry a Palestinian from Jordan and bring her, he cannot do that. He cannot marry his wife and bring her or husband and bring them across the border to live in Israel and to accept citizenship. I mean, even after many years, I'm not talking about a process. So, there's a lot of cynicism. We have to stick to the deep values, to respect the people like you who are oppressed. That's what I have to say.
I'm so moved by what you said,
Yes.
really. Thank you for saying it. That probably demanded a lot of courage, really. And you're amazing. I think what he was saying, he was just giving an example of how, but it's important for me to say, we don't have any connections.
Yeah, we're not happy about it.
No. We're just saying one thing. The world is riddled with injustice and riddled with human suffering and with things that can make you crazy. I think that's why so many people just back off. They say, you know what, I can't handle it. It's too much. Human suffering and pain and loss is so tragic. What can I do?
Or become terrorists.
Right. So they either they go to the side of the bad guys, and or they just give up. And I think that we're lucky that we have enough people like you, and maybe like us, who are willing to rebel against the absurdity of it and create beauty and light.
Thank you.
I want to hug you.
Yes.
Sí, muchísimas gracias. Bueno, creo que vamos a cerrar esta conversación magnífica y sobre todo, yo creo, agradeciendo y recordando nuevamente a Camus, ¿no? Que evidentemente el artista forma parte del mundo en el que vivimos, ¿no? Y creo que claramente cada uno de vosotros habéis demostrado vuestra implicación en vuestra realidad, vuestro compromiso con la sociedad que nos ha tocado vivir y, por tanto, un privilegio teneros como esos creadores, creadoras, tal y como las definía Camus, en esa definición de que el artista no juzga, sino que lo que intenta es comprender, y creo que cada uno de vosotros, con vuestra escritura diferenciada, lo demostráis plenamente. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias a todos. Ahora tenemos una pausa café en la Plaza de Sacreu, pero tenemos que abandonar la sala en orden. Primero saldrán las personas que están en el anfiteatro, por favor. Podéis ir saliendo y después iremos de las filas posteriores hacia adelante. Lo tenemos que hacer con orden, por favor. Permanecemos en los sitios. Los cascos los podéis dejar en vuestros asientos si volvéis ahora. Si os vais a ir hay que devolverlos, ¿vale? Un momentito, por favor. Que vayan saliendo por arriba. Gracias.